Hey Frag fam, what is going on? I hope you guys are all doing well today. Elliot here. Welcome back to The Fragrance Well. Today we're going to be doing first impressions of two new fragrance releases. That's going to be Creed's Eladaria, I can't remember that name for some reason, and Mason Francis Kurkdjian's Kurky. Actually, let me be a little bit more transparent here. This is more of a second impression. I have smelled both of these fragrances before. I've seen the notes for both the fragrances. I've seen write-ups for both the fragrances. So this is a little bit different from when I normally do the first impressions, where I try not to look up anything for the fragrance and then just smell it here and then tell you what I smell and then maybe see how correct I am. I kind of like to do that for fun, but I've smelled both of these fragrances before, but I've never done a deep dive into them. I haven't analyzed them or anything like that, but I have seen information from it. So I'm going to call it second impressions. But that being said, I'll still share my full thoughts on the fragrances because I don't own them. I don't have full experience with them. Again, these are just samples. I got the sample of the Creed fragrance here, and then here's the Kurky from Mason Francis Kurkdjian. So let's go ahead and dive right into them. Before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you do like this content, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. Alright guys, I'm going to start with the Creed one, Eladaria. Not 100% sure how to say it, but that is my enunciation of it. And I'm just going to actually spray these straight on skin. Because I've smelled them on strips before, I figured best way to kind of get a full deep dive into them is just to go ahead and spray them on skin. So let's see here. Alright, so this is Eladaria, this is the new Creed. This fragrance is marketed for women, and smelling it, that's pretty accurate. I think more women would be interested in this. Nice smell right off the bat. Then men. That being said, I wouldn't put it past some men to wear this fragrance. So I'm gonna give this a second to just sit on my skin, settle in for a little bit, and then let's see what we got. All right, it's been on my hand for about a minute or so, so let's go right in. This is rose scented right off the bat. That's undeniable. It hits you right in the face with rose right away. There's kind of this fruity touch to it. I don't know if there's a leather accord in here, but I remember even when I first smelled this, I thought I picked up on some leatheriness, which is why I would say there may be some men who are okay with wearing this. Rose, it's a variety of roses. I'm getting a little bit of a jammy rose. I'm getting a really watery, fresh rose, like dew on the petal of dew on rose petals kind of smell. So there's some watery facets here, and I think I mentioned before I get a little bit of a fruity touch. There's definitely a little bit of brightness to this scent. I would say overall this is more of a warmer weather rose fragrance to an extent, maybe transition season rose fragrance. Really good spring, really good fall. It's definitely floral, heavily floral, but that's overall what I'm smelling. There may be like some woody bases to this. There is something in here that's giving me a leather characteristic, but I don't know if it's actually leather. But overall, I think the fragrance does smell good. Is it breaking any barriers though in terms of a rose scent? I would say no. I would say that's actually, credit to a little bit of leeway to Creed here. I would think that's actually going to be something that's kind of difficult to do in terms of putting out a rose fragrance that is so different that everybody's like, wow, they actually came up with something new. There's so much you can do with rose fragrances, but that doesn't mean it hasn't been done before. That being said, I think the fragrance smells good, and at least to my knowledge, Creed doesn't really have a rose scent like this, so they are putting out something new for themselves. So I'm gonna just go to Parfumo.net and we'll kind of look at the note breakdown. Okay, so they got mandarin, orange, pink pepper, bergamot. Oh, it actually has a powdery note as a note, so that's interesting. Rosa, centifolia, peony, lily of the valley. Actually, all of that kind of makes sense in terms of the watery nature with the rose I'm getting. And then, if I'm not mistaken, lily of the valley can sometimes give a watery floral effect. They say powdery notes. I wonder what that means. What exactly does that mean? Because it doesn't just outright smell like baby powder or anything like that. So that's interesting. And then at the base notes, vanilla, cashmere wood, musk, and amber. So that's kind of a basic base note breakdown for a floral fragrance, I guess. Amberiness, obviously, I guess that's meant to add a little bit of warmth, and vanilla. I guess that's adding just a little bit of sweetness to this. The cashmere wood, I think, makes a lot of sense because there's like a soft, woody touch. I do notice, though, there is no leather accord in here. But I think maybe there's just something about the the base note of this fragrance, the heavier notes of the fragrance, that for me it just kind of comes across that way. But I will admit, it doesn't outright smell like leather to me. It just reminds me of a leathery nature. But overall, I mean, this is a good scent, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this stuff. I think this is a good scent. If you like rose, I would say it's at least worth getting your nose on. Who knows, there could be an X factor for you in here. But to me, it does overall lean feminine. I did let my wife smell this. She certainly likes it, so I don't know if she wants me to get her a bottle or if she's going to buy herself a bottle at some point. Wearing fragrances is not really much of a focus for her right now, obviously. But she did think it was really nice. I didn't think she'd like this, to be honest, but she said, no, this smells really good. So, hey, that's something. But yeah, that is Creed's Eladaria, and I hope I'm saying that right. But, you know, Creed is putting out a lot of new fragrances now, but if I'm being honest, a lot of them are not necessarily game breakers, but, you know, they are putting out stuff that I guess is new to their catalog, but I don't know. I think they just should have been doing that all along. But nevertheless, this is a good scent. It smells of quality. Anybody that's fans of rose fragrances, I think, would at least like it. Now, whether or not they want to pay for it, that's a whole separate story, but you know how that goes with Creed. So once again, that was Creed Eladaria. All right, we're doing the Mason Francis Kurkdjian Kurky now. Again, this is second impressions, as I kind of stated in the intro. I know this fragrance is meant to represent like having candy as a child. It's meant to evoke memories, particularly, I guess, for people my age. You know, if you're already really, really young, it may not make a lot of sense to you. But that's the idea. And like I said, I've actually smelled the fragrance before, but I haven't done a deep dive. So we're going to just go ahead and spray it. And let me see what I kind of get from it. And I mean, right off the bat, it's fruity, candy-like, sweet. I mean, as soon as you spray it, you kind of get that essence, but I'm gonna let it sit on my skin for a minute. All right, guys, so Kurky's been on my hand for a little bit now, and, you know, I already kind of told you, it's meant to kind of evoke childhood memories in terms of like having candy and stuff like that. And when you smell it, I would say if you're of a certain age group where, you know, childhood is way behind you, I would say this fragrance could possibly evoke those kind of memories. It does for me, to be honest. And really what I would say, what is it going to maybe do for you? It might remind you of a specific candy you had. I wouldn't say it's one thing. I would say some people might say, oh, this reminds me of this candy, or this reminds me of that candy. For me, one of the first things that kind of comes to mind is like the cheap fruit stripe gum. Which, you know, that gum sucks, right? Because the flavor's gone in a minute and a half. But it kind of reminds me of that. It also, I think, gave me fruit roll-up vibes on paper when I first smelled it. I wouldn't say I'm quite getting that now, but I do remember thinking like fruit gushers. I'm assuming they still have this stuff. But fruit gushers was something I had a lot when I was younger. Kind of gives me a little bit of a vibe of that. Yeah, I remember my wife said she thought fruit roll-ups. So I think it kind of fits in that realm. The other thing I kind of think of is just think of those just random assortment of hard candies that are all just kind of fruity, and they don't even necessarily taste different from one another. They're in different candied shapes. I remember there being like a lime, a grape, a banana, a orange, a lemon, but they all pretty much tasted the same, and they would be in like those little quarter vending machines. Do they even still have those? I mean, change is, never mind. No point in going down that road. Yeah, but the fragrance smells fruity, sweet, a little bit soft, kind of like a cotton candy kind of vibe. So there's probably, you know, musk being used to kind of help achieve that, and just, you know, some sweeter notes. And that's pretty much what you get here. Does it smell very realistic? No, but then again, when you think about candy and the flavors, they're typically very, very artificial anyway. They're not meant to taste like the real thing, because at that point, they're not really candy anymore. So I would say, from the standpoint of what this fragrance is trying to evoke, it wouldn't make sense for it to smell realistic. So yeah, there's that. Overall, would I be kicking down doors to buy this fragrance? Personally, no. Just because, just even stylistically, it's not a fragrance I myself really would wear much. But to me, this is more about what the fragrance does than what it smells like. I'm gonna be completely honest. In terms of what it smells like, it's meh. It's not really groundbreaking at all. It's not inspiring at all. It's not reaction evoking. It's more so about memories, which again, that's not a bad thing. It's just a matter of what you pay for it or not. But I actually want to read the write-up on this one, because I think it is actually more important with this fragrance than the last one. The last one was just kind of describing what you can expect to get. Well, this one is like, this is what this fragrance is meant to do. Kurky is a poetic invitation to reveal our inner child with a burst of spontaneous, carefree laughter. Kurky, with its fruity, musky notes, encourages us to see life in color and to be filled with wonder again. So the whole point is for it to be kind of nostalgic. And you know what? It achieves that. So I don't fault it for that. The note breakdown is very simple on this. White musk, fruity notes, sandalwood, vanilla. Yeah, it kind of makes sense to me. In terms of, like I said, what I smell, it overall smells very, very artificial. So I don't know if there's any, well, you know, it doesn't matter. That's how the fragrance comes across. I already kind of described it, how I smell it. I'm looking at that note breakdown. It makes sense to me. But yeah, this is more about a fragrance serving a purpose in terms of bringing up nostalgia. But when you think about the price of a said fragrance, you know, something from Mason Francis Kurkdjian, and of course I'm talking about full retail here, you know, is it really worth it? That's going to be from a person-to-person basis. Some people might smell this and just think like, hey, I love fragrances like that, and just think it just smells good and don't care about the memories at all. I tend to look at both sides. I look at the smell. I also look at, does it evoke a reaction? And this one does. It evokes a memory. For me, it does make me think of my childhood a little bit. Now, I wasn't no super big candy kid. I didn't eat like just loads of candy, but you know, I had candy. And this absolutely gives me that memory. So I would say if that is the point of the fragrance, then it's a job well done. But overall, I could do without it. All right, so in conclusion, why don't I just go ahead and give these fragrances a quick rating? People tend to ask me about that, and I always forget to do it. So for Eladaria, I hope I got the name right. I'm telling you, that name of that fragrance will not stay in my head, but I think that's right. Creed Eladaria. I'm gonna give that, I'll give it a 6. Because, you know, I'm a fan of rose fragrances and I got quite a few in my collection. I'm going to add more. I like good rose fragrances, but I can tell you right now, as good as this one is, it's not one I would necessarily add. It's not something that's making me say I need that type of rose in my collection. That being said, if my wife wants it, even fragrances that are hers, I consider a part of my collection because they all get stored up there anyway. So if she wants it and we get it for her at some point, then it'll be in the collection. But I would give it a 6, and you know, that's average. That's not a bad score. That's average. For Kurky, I'd give it the same score. I'm being a little bit generous. From a pure smell fragrance by itself standpoint, I'd give that a 4. To be honest, it's not that inspiring to me. It doesn't really get me that excited. But because it is marketed to serve a specific purpose in terms of the emotions it is meant to give you and the memories it's meant to give you, it does that perfectly in my mind. So I give it literally higher marks just because of that. Now, not everybody really cares about that stuff, but I do. So I will give it a 6 because of that. Because I can't deny it literally does make me think of like some childhood memories, particularly as it pertains to like candy and innocence and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my rating for these two fragrances. Let me know down in the comments below if you have had a chance to check these out yet. Let's see. Both of the Creed fragrances are at Bloomingdale's and Neiman Marcus if you have those stores around you. If not, I do believe you can get samples of them. Same with the Mason Francis Kurkdjian. I think they're available at both stores. The Kurky is, if I'm not mistaken. And same thing, I believe you can get samples of it. They'll probably start popping up on discounters at some point. We'll see. I haven't actually checked to see if they are. So if someone knows, feel free to put that in the comments below. But yeah, if you've checked these out, let me know what you think of them. And that is pretty much going to wrap it up for this video. So thank you guys for watching all the way into the end. I really do appreciate you all. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I will see you all in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.